I'm dropping Ninninger. Yay! First vlog of December! Sorry about last week, but I was finally getting the season finale done, and I wanted to focus on that, and then I ended up not working on it because I got so fed up with it while editing, and for those who are anticipating it, yes, Super Tyson Grand Prix is getting reviewed. All of it. I'm also touching on Ninja vs. Drive. I'm not actually reviewing it, but I'm still giving my thoughts on it in there. In addendum to what I already did in the earlier vlog in the year about it. And I'm also reviewing Kamen Rider Yongo. One of these three is actually good, or at least good enough to my standard of actually liking it. I'll let you guess which one. Spoilers, it's not the one you think. Other news. Working on some upgrade stuff. I am kind of on break for a bit from other stuff. I mean, yeah, I'm posting the videos. But I'm trying to get stuff remastered for YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the first video of the .hack Reminisce video from last year went up. If you're seeing this on Daily Motion, I have been uploading the remasters that I'm also putting on YouTube in the previous spots of those videos. So if you want to go back and look at those, please consider doing that. That retrospective is coming to an end, and it has been pretty much my baby, and in the legacy of being an internet reviewer, that is going to probably be the high mark of my work. Yeah, I do these Toku, so much of my work is the Tokusatsu stuff, but .hack was a really important part of it's important to me, I should say, so I would appreciate anyone that hasn't looked at those to please look at those. At least the GU videos, roots onwards, because I know the early ones kinda are in my sucky, crappy production quality period. I really don't like looking back at those myself, but at least roots onwards, please. So, I'm dropping in Ninja. I got through 39 episodes of the show, and Kinji, best character. Seriously, Kinji, best character. And we more quality stuff with Kinji that for the rest of the cast. I don't feel like anyone's progressed in 40 episodes. So, I finally called it quits when I saw the opening of the episode was Kibaoni Mangetsu, the child of Kibaoni Gengetsu and Ariake, who was only just born, because this is apparently why Ariake has been wanting fear for herself to make herself young, so she could give birth to Mangetsu, but if Mangetsu was just born, that means that she had to de-age herself, meaning that him still being in her womb he would have been... I think I just went cross-eyed. It's stupid, which is my point. It doesn't make sense for her to get younger to give birth to something when, she's a woman, she could have done it at any time. Maybe the idea is Mangetsu was stillborn, or Ariake died and became a demon while she was pregnant with Mangetsu. Back before this, since it was established Mangetsu was at one point human, I think. The lore in this show is terrible. And it just gets all levels of squick, and that's after, he's introduced by stealing snacks from little kids to create despair and in his own selfishness. Now, here's the thing. I have really, really sensitive hearing, and it's certain sounds that not only cause pain, but extreme anger, and one of those things is children crying. So, not only was this painful to watch, it was finally reached the point where it was pain and anger inducing just to hear things going on. And that's just the beginning of the episode. And, this is the point where I said, you know what? I watched a fair chunk of Car Ranger before I gave up on that show was terrible. Your own opinions on whether you like the comedy or not, yeah. But this is the first show where I realized, why the fuck am I still watching this? There's no reason for me to be watching this. I keep repeating my same problems every single episode. At least with Car Ranger, yes, I'm saying Car Ranger did something better. At least they improved by this point. They drugged themselves out of the gutter by this point. They had some interesting stories after the introduction of VRV Master and the VRV Robo. They kind of gave a direction to the show to bring itself up. This show hasn't done that. I'll review Car Ranger eventually. I think I'm coming to the realization that my thing about it being the worst Sentai series, almost killing the franchise, it did almost kill the franchise. It was in tandem with O-Ranger and Executive Meddling. There are a lot of issues for it. It was in there for almost killing it. This, I think I finally realized, is worse. And that's saying... I'm getting off topic. I'm saying that I will no longer, like Sentai Bandicoot on Twitter. We talk on Twitter. He's kind of a person that's a proponent for Car Ranger and appreciation of it. Yeah, I'll no longer argue with him on this. I still will say I don't like the series, but I'm not gonna. I've been researching like a thesis the last few years about why Car Ranger was the worst set. I'm just scrapping the damn thing. So, and then I got a bunch of new tweets about that. Oh yeah, this is the thing I said from before. Show's kind of trying to remake Shinkadra's plots, but without any of the creative understanding or craft. That's a tweet from Sentai Bandicoot, which would be yesterday, as, we were discussing this on Twitter before I was just getting to it, and, it's pretty much the problem, yeah. You got the Japanese theme, you got something that's traditionally Japanese, you got the, family or descendants of samurai, you got the, eldritch creature that needs something from humanity to revive itself, bring itself out from the muck, and they both do it on fear, and you got this crafty dude that's the interim villain. It's pretty much Shinkenger without any of the... Oh crap, it's Power Ranger Samurai. Ugh. Anyways, I keep getting divergent on this. The episode is about at the top of Mangetsu, because he's a fucking imbecile, except he's not an imbecile. He's probably the only one to not be an imbecile of the villains for a long time. And that's saying something considering they're strategist amongst them, because he's been observing them from Ariake's... Excuse me. Because he's been observing them before he was born through Ariake, except how the fuck would that work since Ariake's been totally dismissive of the Ninninger and their threat? She just wants fear. So, even then, this doesn't quite work, but Mangetsu's been observing them, so lures them into a trap by pretending to be a fucking imbecile. And I gotta say, he's pretty good at pretending to be a fucking imbecile, because we expect that from the villains at this point, to be fucking imbeciles. So, they try and, the Ninninger, via Katsumi, try and plan out a, trap for Mangetsu, based on the whole snacks thing, but the snacks thing was wholly a diversion to lure them into a trap by getting them to underestimate him. This, by the way, is after Katsumi reminds them that they need to not underestimate their enemies after thinking Mangetsu so pathetically weak that they can defeat him easily, so as to not do this specific thing that Mangetsu is actually pulling on them. In other words, they plan so as to not underestimate him, and yet Mangetsu gets away with his plan because they underestimate him. You don't do that! You can't set up your heroes as, not doing the thing that the villain actually gets a one-over on them by doing that specific thing. Does that make sense to people? I know I can be kind of scatterbrained in these vlogs, so I'm just running over my. This is immediately from brain to mouth, with immediate reaction. You all know that this by this point. I apologize. So yeah, the plan backfires because they underestimate Mangetsu when they weren't going to underestimate him. And you know, the plan in theory is pretty good. They get rid of his backup troops that prevented them from defeating him when he first appeared. But the problem with it is that they had the two weakest on the team attacking Mangetsu and keeping him occupied while the stronger members take care of the mooks. Had you switched that out with Takaharu and Kinji attacking Mangetsu, this would probably not have flat-footed them as much. Instead, it was Katsumi, who's more of a brain than an athlete, and Fuka, who the show repeatedly uses as the unadept punching bag for this because she doesn't want to be a freaking ninja. So this somehow causes Katsumi to have a blue screen of death moment in the middle of battle after Fuka gets injured, when her plan is thwarted. The problem with this is, she's had her plans thwarted throughout the show. This has not been the first time this has happened. Either one of the other Ninninger screws it up, or the Kaijin of the week has some ability they didn't account for, and you know, they go on the fly. They change tactics on the fly. That's the phrase I was looking for. And it works, but suddenly Fuka injured pretty minorly, all things considered, and then Katsumi completely locks up. What the hell? It's like, they had enough time to call for backup from the others. They were immediately there. They got them, they came to their aid immediately as Fuka was falling. So, yeah, this doesn't work, really, for trying to be developmental of Katsumi's character when, and trying to get her to be more than a manipulator. As she's really not a manipulator, she's a planner. I guess they Overtime uses the term schemer, but scheming doesn't seem right. It's like synonymous to the right term you want to use to describe her, but scheming theme seems like it's for non-altruistic pursuits, whereas Katsumi's usually using it to subvert the enemies. I mean, I guess she's a ninja. Scheming might fit the job description if, you know, you're planning to take down, if you're, like, called to assassinate someone, I guess. But it's like, I guess the bigger issue with this is that Katsumi's the intelligent one, and she was outsmarted by a group of enemies that are known for being morons. And that's the bigger deal, I think, here, that she's disbelieving. Yeah, that would actually fit better for her character. She's disbelieving she was outsmarted by people who are so stupid they've had almost easy victories all season. It's been pretty rare where they don't end up utterly dominating in the show. It's been pretty rare, and usually the big obstacles, whereas, you know, good Sentai have a good give and take. There's injury, there's flailing, there's good give and take, whereas you haven't gotten that as much in Ninja at all, so it's pretty much been curb stomp one way or the other. So it's not really showing either side as clever or intelligent or, okay, it is showing them as powerful, but it's like narrative-driven, uber powerful, I guess. So this really doesn't work as really developing Katsumi's character as she's not really learning anything from it. She just had a faltering moment, and thus, there's no development for her or much insight into her character, and yeah, that's the problem with the show. I keep repeating, which is why I'm no longer going to be doing vlogs on Ninninger, and I realized I should have stopped a long time ago because the show's, aside from Kinji's story arc, there's nothing been substantial done with anyone. I mean, the remaining plot's pretty basic. Isayoi wants revenge on Yoshitaka and will do anything he can to get it, and has done that in a variety of ways, none of which have majorly mattered to the story at this point, and we have less than, between 10 and 12 episodes of the show left. Okay, between 8 and 12 episodes of the show left, depending on how long they're running it for. So, there's not been anything substantial. So, I doubt they're going to have anything, whatever they have left. I should have just dropped it a long time ago. And yeah, while Kasumi creates a new plan, it's like I said, curb stomp retaliatory battle. The only cool thing about it is they use most of the special fishing techniques they've used throughout the show, except they kind of missed a opportunity for Kasumi to use Chozetsu, and they justify it narratively as the bulky armor not being Katsumi's thing. The bulky armor, which increases physical ability, agility, speed, and a bunch of other things that don't actually hinder their users at all. Meaning, this was just written in narratively to avoid Katsumi actually equipping the Chozetsu armor. Fuka used it on Transformed as a joke, and the other four had to earn the opportunity to use Chozetsu for him at some point. So, Katsumi is supposed to earn this at this point. This is her big level up to use Chozetsu, and they refuse to give it to her. I know the whole Super Shinken thing was much simpler. It was just a duster, but they gave it to their female rangers. I'm forgetting Shinken Pink's name off the top of my head. I apologize, I'm terrible with names. But they had her use it, and it was a significant moment in the show, which, failings of Power Rangers Samurai notwithstanding, they still went through with. And in the Goseiger Shinkenger team-up, they gave everybody the equipment. So, why is it with this standalone power-ups in series that they never legitimately give it to the girls? This is with the Hyper Resha thing, too, where they only ever had it used with the girls together. They had linked up the armor for some stupid reason in Tokyoger that I'm forgetting at the moment. And it was irritating, as that was the only time they got to use it, while everybody else got it at least twice. So yeah, Mangetsu Retreat, I don't care, I'm not watching anymore. Ghost. This episode and last episode are parts of finally filling in the backstory for the show and the Tenkuchi's involvement in all of this and the relevance of the monolith. The monolith was apparently found by Takeru's father, Ryo, and the Jagged Tooth Man, who has been seen trying to collect the icons and collaborating with the Ganma, is also trying to collect the icons. So there are three forces in this. The Jagged Tooth Man is our comparable Dr. Maki for the series, in that he covets these icons for his own uses, likely destruction of the world or own selfish gain, and is manipulating... Okay, I guess the Dr. Maki thing isn't exactly appropriate. He sought destruction for the beauty of its own end. And I'm trying to think of a better parallel that is manipulating sides like this, and I'm coming up on a blank at this specific moment. But I think it might be a Forza Wizard parallel. It's not Masato Kusaka. He didn't exactly have anything in control. But I'm trying to think of the significant moments where. Anyways, point is, in relation to this, they revealed the identity of Makoto and who he is to everyone else. He is a childhood friend of Takeru, Akari, and Onari that disappeared alongside his sister Kanan 10 years ago. They were sucked through the monolith into the Ganma world and suffered there for 10 years, apparently only recently re-emerging with the same 99-day time limit as Takeru. The thing with Makoto, though, is his limit is not on himself, but on his sister, who is trapped in a Ganma icon. And apparently Ganma possession, even in this form, and if it lasts past 99 days, they become corrupted or some other thing that will stop them from reverting back to this. So, yeah, we understand Spectre's whole dealio, but not exactly his rage and anger at Takeru and his, I guess, flightiness on all of this. Until, Jagged Tooth Man comes to him and says that the accident that sent the pair into the Gamma world that resulted in their current situation is Ryo's fault, is Takeru's father's fault. There's a problem with this. This is the 8th episode. Spectre has only been around for 4, and you've barely established him as a character. So it's not really getting this in as a betrayal when only last episode you have established what kind of relationship he has with the main characters, and you haven't really established why he's so much of a jackass and, ignorant to other people's plights and all of this. I mean, you're trying to build empathy for a situation with his sister, but you're showing him completely lacking empathy towards anyone else or the threat of the Ganma. In fact, he's encouraging Ganma attacks. And this is someone that should hate the Ganma for, putting him in these straits. I mean, yeah, I can see him hating anyone else that had anything to do with the monolith as well, but I would think he would hate the entities that, actually did the act a bit more than someone who's already dead, and, the by proxiness of the actual act. I can see him being angry at both sides, but I don't see him actively helping the entities responsible for his sister's current strait. So, yeah, 8 episodes in, and finally getting the exposition, which I should be happy over. The show's kind of breaking down for me. Maybe it'll save itself when they finally get the two officially talking, but as we're still stuck in the ragegasm mode of Makoto and his drive to get the icons to save her, we've not really been getting that. Granted, this is the first 2-parter in the series, so hopefully the story is continuing to slow down a bit so as to allow us these character moments. There's only one spare icon that hasn't been gathered, and I'm meaning the heroic ones that the show is revolving around, that Takeru, Makoto, and Jagged Sawtooth Guy need to get for the wish, whatever form it's taken for Jagged Tooth Guy, whatever. But the others have all been captured. Ghost has 5. Makoto has 4. Jagged Sawtooth Guy has 5. So there's only one left in... There's only one hero character heroic ghost left to gather before we can move on from this part of the story, and that's going to debut in the next episode, which is Benkei, which is the last of the apparent base forms for Ghost and Spectre, because they can transfer them. So maybe they'll have a better resolution coming soon when they no longer have that, but we're also seeing that Aron, the Ganma summoning guy, his plans have been progressing nicely despite the defeats of all the Ganma, as he's been setting up these eyes across all of the locations where the battles occur at. I guess it's for a greater summoning event or something that will lead into the next arc of the show. First arc seems to be pretty much gathering the creating the icons, then the next part can actually be warring over the icons, and then the arc after that can be Ganma invasion with the various rider forces actually focused on actually resolving that conflict. I'm speculating at this point. But like I've been saying since the start, it's going too fast for its own good. I can get that they're trying to. Okay, maybe I should put this better. Had they spaced out the icons a bit better, they could have had interim Ganma fights to better build the antagonism between Spectre and Ghost. His condemnations of Ghost, which, as I've said, have not exactly been entirely valid, and in the new context of Spectre being on his own with Makoto being on his own for so many years, it can be that he has a twisted view on reality and is lashing out, and his words aren't actually as applicable as might be thought. Which, okay, that's a bit better. He's acting a bit more spiteful, as Takeru's had it easy, and this is where I would reply, your pain is not special, and all that, if it makes you out to be a worse person. But yeah, had they spaced this out a bit more, had they, waited until episode 16, maybe Spectre debut about now, and then, have their continuing fight over the icons be the next 12 episodes, with this reveal about Makoto being more. Admittedly, that's what they did with Chase, so I'm glad they're not stretching out excessively, but it's I'm not saying you don't reveal the things about Makoto at all and wait until the 20s. I'm saying you wait. The Jagged Sawtooth Man turning Makoto further against Takeru by saying that Takeru's father was the one that sent them there. That's an obvious lie manipulation to get him gunning directly at Takeru, which I think had they pushed that back, that might have been better, as they would have had more time to establish Makoto as his own character, instead of this antagonist rider that becomes a partner later. What am I even saying at this point? But yeah, that's the part I have the issue with dropping it so soon. Maybe it's so they can get it out of the way, but if they get it out of the way, there's kind of this whole thing about Makoto being a dick. So you're not endearing us by hitting us with his backstory, and having a good reason to be focused on being strong, being powerful, and not wavering in your resolve, which I think is the bigger root thing of his condemnations of Takeru, and then having this pretty damn obvious manipulation and him going straight for it. I'm not buying that. There was a follow-up from last week, same Ganma, B-Woman, who is using, B is my god, to possess multiple people at once to build another monolith, like is in the basement of Takeru's home, which I assume is from the footage of the show, we assume is a conduit of some kind that connects to the Ganma world, which again leads us into the question of what Sage is. The Sage that gave Takeru the powers of Ghost. Is he a guardian entity against the Ganma? Is he some type of Ganma higher up that's actually manipulating a long game thing, and the wish doesn't actually exist? Because they only know Takeru only knows of the wish from Yurusen and Sage. We don't know how Spectre learned of it, presumably through Jagged Tooth Guy. We don't know how Jagged Tooth Guy knows of it. He's been said he's a researcher. He researched the monolith, but we haven't. It was more throwaway descriptive lines set over flashbacks. I really hope they get more into this before the chronologically occurring events of the Drive movie team up, which we've started to see previews for, and yay, I'm actually excited. And then I realized I'm not going to be seeing that until next summer due to how the DVD release schedules work and the subbing works for all of that. Because it looks like since that movie is going to be a traditional team up, I think it allows for more appreciation of the whole cast interaction versus how they've done the movie wars for the winter team ups the last few years, whereas concluding story plus current story plus team up as the last part of it, which has pretty much left the team ups as big fight scenes. I think, as I've discussed in previous vlogs, I think Movie War Megamax is best all over for both the individual character stories and the team up. The Fateful Sengoku Movie War has the best time in the team up since it allows more time for Haruto and Kota to interact before the fight, as you know they kind of amalgamated the Gaim half of the movie with the actual team up, so there was more setup for the location and the collusion that helped there, even though story-wise it was one of the weaker movies. But this Movie War Genesis, I think they're calling it, Movie War Sosei, something like that, I think is trumping that with how the entire movie is going to be one long traditional team-up like you'd see with the Sentai Versus movies. Yes. Where was I? Yeah, they were building another monolith, and that's where Takeru comes in to destroy it and show off more of Billy the Kid. I like the design of the Billy the Kid Ghost Parka and icon, and I like the dual wielding things. People say it's less accurate, but apparently the special ability of the Billy the Kid Ghost icon is accurate sniping of targets from guns. Now, the whole thing about the guns thing is that we now have 3 ranged attack ghost icons in play. Nobunaga, which admittedly is taken by Spectre, Robin Hood, and now Billy the Kid. I kind of see this as different means of ranged attacks. Like, Billy the Kid is more speedy attacks, so they're not actually strong amongst themselves unless, you use rifle mode, and then you're not exactly speedy shots. Whereas, not Arrow. Robin Hood is more the accurate ranged attacker, and Nobunaga is the powerful force ranged assault. So they all have a different specialty effect behind their attacks versus, being just the same thing in triplicate, which would be annoying. Then again, we also have Edison, who uses elemental ranged attacks, considering how their weapons use them, and I'm just babbling now. But yeah, I like the design of the Ghost parka. I've liked most of the Ghost designs, minus, I guess, Edison. They're divergent enough that they all collectively work, in my opinion. Up to this point, that may change. The only other significant thing about Ghost this week was Makoto, I shouldn't say revealed himself, but gave enough clues to his identity for Takeru to figure it out when the plot of the arc made him reminisce on Makoto and how he's been missing for so long. Because otherwise they had not mentioned them at all. Like I said, this is not a good development for the show. I mean, they seeded it a bit more, shown a few portraits of Makoto and Kanan's child figures in pictures, and Takeru reminiscing over the times, and then, that would be a kind of tying element where it doesn't come after we've actually introduced the character to have this kind of revelation, and yeah, I'm starting to build up issues with the show now. But it's still overall pretty good, just still too fast-paced for its own good, still not character-driven enough that makes the stories memorable. We still don't know that much about the Ganma. We have gotten Spectre's motives finally cleared up, but not exactly enough substantial, I guess. As I'm kind of on break from making videos, I should not have any significant problems with having to skip video dates, but I'll try and keep these more concise, since with me dropping Ninninger, the next few weeks are going to be just Ghost only, which I'm completely fine with. But it should end up being shorter videos all around, so yeah. See ya!